So you're stuck out on the train for 12 hours plus. What do you do at the time? That question comes up a lot, and reality is that it depends on the situation. Sometimes you're going to spend a good portion of that time talking with dispatch about how to get out of that situation and how to get your train moving. So there's going to be that interaction. You'll talk about what's got the train stopped at that point. If it's something an emergency, you might be walking the train, so you have that in between. In addition to that, bring a book. You can't really use your cell phone when you're on a train per FRA rules, so you want to bring something to entertain your time, especially if the person you're working with is maybe tired or distracted with things, things at home. You want to make sure you have something to entertain that time while you're there. If you're new, you should be spending your time in your operating rules books anyway, and you're sitting in the cab with somebody who's been in your position before, so use that time to ask them questions if they're willing to help. If you're lucky enough to have a conversation with an engineer that cares enough to get to know you while you're stopped, you'll exchange those pleasantries. You'll go through what brought you out here. What'd you do before you got here? Do you have any kids? Are you married? You'll go through those, and sometimes they'll ask questions that you never really thought of. Make sure you write those down. Those are good, fuel for eliminating awkward silences on some of the trips. So you can ask that new engineer maybe that question, or you have a quicker answer the next time you have that conversation, and ask a thoughtful response so that they get the respect that they're hoping that they get from a new hire. So something to think about. Food is a huge one out here, especially beef jerky. People bring that to share and have those conversations because that is a conversation starter. What seasonings do you use? Did you smoke it? Is it dehydrated? That can take a little while to go over that. You'll want to be kind of weary to monitor your caffeine intake when you're on these shifts. You're always expecting 12 hours no matter what. And if it's shorter, that's great. If it's longer, then you're getting paid for the inconvenience. But the caffeine intake, do your best to take a pre-game trip to the head before you leave, but caffeine usually gets that flowing. And if you're lucky enough to have a second unit, be courteous, head back there and try not to ruin the trip for everybody in the cab. Somebody's food lunch boxes and people's food lunch boxes out here tend to be bigger than their grips a lot of times, and that's because you do not want to be caught out here without food. Sometimes you're in that place for a very long time, and there's nothing worse than being irritated and hungry at the same time. Nobody wants to be hangry. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just a matter of getting through